Flyfish RC are a brand you may have seen just appear on the scene in FPV. However, they have been around for some time. A few weeks ago, they have sent me over some products to take a look at, including their Volador frame and flash motors, their GPS module, as well as some interesting antennas for the DJI FPV and the O3 system. Whilst today we're going to concentrate on the Volador frame and the flash motors, in the future we will be making a separate video on these antennas because they really do have some interesting products, including the patch antenna for the V2s and a dual band, dual input antenna for the O3 that is similar to the original DJI one. However, as I've said, today we're going to concentrate on the frame and motors, and what we're going to do is take a look, put them together, and then at the end I'm going to share with you some of my thoughts. So let's get on with it and let's take a look at what these two are all about. So what we're going to concentrate on today from Flyfish RC is their motors and the Volador frame. Now, they have sent me antennas for O3 and other FPV systems as well. We'll be taking a look at them in another video later on. So if you're interested in seeing that, please do make sure you are subscribed. So this here is the flash motors, which are the 2306's 1750 kV, which are grey and purple, and we'll take a closer look at them in a minute. 6S rated, obviously. And then we've got the Volador frame, and this is the Volador 2 VD5 dead cat frame. Now, I'll be honest, I have not seen these before they were sent to me. I have seen their frames around, but I don't off the top of my head know exactly which model this is. So it's going to be a journey for me as it is you as well. Now, what we'll do first of all is start with the frame, and then we'll move over to the motors and actually get them mounted on the frame as well. Okay, now Flyfish RC are a company that really have been producing more and more gear, especially over the last few years. You're seeing them, though, really begin to enter the same space as we've seen from other manufacturers, iFlight and others, not only with the motors, but the frames and everything else as well. Now, looking in the kit, what we've got here is some wiring protection. We have all of our standoffs in that bag, as well as some other bits as well. There's camera mounts, there's TPU mounts. We'll have a look at that in a minute. We've got a host of 3D printed parts in multicolour, which is nice. More there, and a camera GoPro mount there. We've got our battery grip, which is Flyfish RC, which is nice to see. Camera mount right and camera mount left, CNC material, which is nice. We've got our frame parts in a bag, as well as some Flyfish RC battery straps as well. They're not the grippy type, they're the leathery type is the term I'll use. I know they're not leather, but that's the type they are. And there's two different lengths of them as well. And obviously they are branded Flyfish RC. So, the frame itself. Now, as I've said, the box says it is the Volador 2 VD5 dead cat frame. Looking at the way they've laid everything out is into different batches, which is really nice to see. So if we get open the main section first, this has obviously got the top and the bottom plates. I can already see that there are captive nuts in there. We've got our arms. Let's get them out the way and we'll measure them. Pop them down there. We've got our top plate. Looks good. Mid plate, I would say. Or that's probably mid plate, and that's front or back. We'll figure it out in a moment. Now, let me just grab my vernier caliper. So, starting with the arms. They are 5.8, so almost 6 mil deep. The plates, 2.4, so that would be 2.5. Make sure that's still zeroed. 2.4 as well for that plate. And then the top plate, exactly the same. So we've only really got two different sizes of carbon here. We've then got this little bag which has some additional parts in. There's an X piece there. That will go in the middle of the frame. That will be what actually holds the arms and locks them in place. We've then got some additional carbon fibre standoff pieces here. They're not camera mounts, but they're standoff, so there'll be additional support. Now, just looking in this other bag, let's see what we've got. We've got an XT60, which is our mountable one, which is really nice to see. I like that. We've got silicone inserts for 19mm cameras. Silicone inserts for 20mm cameras. So that means we're going to have coverage for, say, the DJI-03 camera, as well as cameras from Avatar and the other ones, which is good to see. Different colours as well, and they're silicone, so that's really nice. We've then got washers, M1.6 screws, M3s, M3 countersunks, M3 12s, M2.5s, M2.5s, and then we've got some nuts and some spacers, and then our main hardware for between the frame, which are hexagon shaped there and in black, just like the other bits. If we then just take a look at these, this is the CNC camera mount. We'll have a look at this. Pop that out. There we go. So that's obviously at the front of the frame. Chances are it's probably going to go that way up, the way these things usually go. I'll have to check, but that's it. And you can see there, then we've got the holes for our silicone inserts. Do appear to have screw holes options in there as well. So if you didn't want to use silicone insert, from the look of it, which is good. And then it's got some flashed off pieces here. And obviously we've got 2 of them. And then we've got the little bits of the extras, like these. And there is this, which is their little leaflet that they include as well, which shows us user manual, which is under there. And then the assembly instructions there. So what I'm going to do next is get this together, and I'll come back when that is done. Okay, so I've got to this stage here. Now, I'll be honest, the instructions are not the best ones I've used. They're certainly not the worst, but what they don't show is exactly where every screw goes completely clearly, and it took me a bit of messing around to get it all right. However, what we have is our aluminium plates up front. We've then got our 4 longer standoffs, and then there are 2 shorter standoffs under this here. The shorter ones go at the back because your XT30 or 60 input, depending on what you wanted to fit, but this is XT60, goes on top of there, and that adds the additional height for the top plate. We then have our 30 by 30 mounting pattern in the middle, but there is a 20 by 20 option as well. And then at the back, you can see we've got the mounting options for the air unit. I haven't actually measured these at the moment, but if we look, what we've got here is 25.5 by 25.5, as well as a 20 by 20. If we flip the frame over, you can then see the screw locations underneath. Now, the main screws that go into the arms and the plates, so this one, 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 have these sort of captive plates that go on to offer additional spreading on the weight that it puts against the frame. Not really weight isn't the right term, but pressure when you tighten the frame up, I should say. And then you've got your flight controller mounting there, which doesn't have them on. We've got 2 additional screws here and 2 there at the back. So the next task is to finish buttoning this up. We'll get all the TPU bits on and see how it looks. Okay, so that's the frame done with all of the little extras on. We've got all the TPU bits on now. So we've got the camera mount up front. There's a bumper on the front here. We've got these bumpers or protection on the end of each arms just to offer a little bit if you crash. And then on the back, we've got our TPU piece for our GPS, our antennas here as well. And then there is this little piece underneath here for the likes of Crossfire or your Express LRS antenna, depending on what you're going to do. Now, overall, the frame build is actually straightforward. more than anything, actually, I'll say what was confusing me was the sheer amount of screws included with this. And it just seemed to be so many. If I just grab the bag of what's spare, there you go. That's just to see what's spare. Now, obviously, some of these might be motor arm screws. Some of these are additional screws for the other mounting points. And there's also a bag of screws here and another bag here for the O3 air unit. So if you're going to fit it with O3, they actually include some bolts for that as well, which is fantastic. Now, overall, it feels nice, solid. Size-wise, let me just grab the Mads Tech ruler. So, lengthwise, the frame is front to the back of the frame is about 17 centimeters or 170 mil, and about 200 mil to the back of the TPU mount. If we go for width, totally from the end of the arm to the end of the arm, we're talking about 230 mil. And if we talk about length, including the dead cat, so if I just stick it up, we are talking, let me just get it the right way round, probably 215 mil, something like that. Now, height-wise, what we've got in the frame is as follows. So if we just check, we have just over 20 mil. I'd say there's 21 mil of height. So you're going to get 20 mil on the screws. There's not quite 20 on the screws. If I look at the screws themselves, we are getting 17 mil to the top of the screw. So you've probably got about 15 mil stack height there. Let's just do it with something a bit more accurate, shall we? Just to make sure that we get this absolutely spot on. So 16 mil to the top of the screw there. So you're probably talking 14 mil stack height in total that you're going to get in there. But you do have just over 20 mil of height. If I just go for the total height available, we are, yeah, about 22 mil in total, and that's going to be good for plenty of space at the back for an O3 unit or something else. So for instance, if I just grab a Vista, we'll force one of them in and just see what that looks like. There you go, plenty of space in there for that. And if we grab an O3, again, the situation is very much the same, plenty of space in there, no problem getting that in there at all. Now, the next thing to look at is the motors. Now, as I've said, these are the Flash Motor 2306s, 1750 kV. So they are going to be predominantly 6S motors. You could run them off 4S, but that's a 6S speed. Now, if we lift the lid inside, we'll find the motor itself. Comes in this little cardboard piece trapped in there. You can see the mounting underneath with the wires. So what we want to do is just carefully pop that off, get them off. There, you can see the motor. You can see then they are silver and purple in design, which is really nice, actually. I really, really like that. If we just rotate it inside, you can see the windings. Nice, thick copper. Quality of the windings looks good. No complaints there at all. We've got our wires then obviously coming out the bottom. We'll measure the length on that just to have an idea of what sort of length we have got from the motor. 150 mil in total. So, okay, not the longest, not the shortest. If we just check that on the long arms at the back, you'll be able to see if I pop that there. Yeah, there's space there to be able to get it onto an ESC in the middle, no problem at all. Now, the feel of these motors feels good, but what we've got here is a high-end motor with regards to the overall spec, very similar to what we see from other manufacturers. Fitted with a titanium shaft, which is then on the aluminium bells, which is 7075 grade. We've got 220 degree high temperature wire, 150 mil long. We've got NMB imported bearings, N52HS magnets all the way around, and the motors themselves weigh 34.2 grams each. Now, if I look at them, they are very similar to, say, the Zing from iFlight, and that's actually a very good thing. If I look at the coils inside, or if we look at them from underneath, they look well made, no complaints at all. The magnets look nice and stuck in place, and overall, they look to be a very, very nice motor. So I've built it up and it is virtually ready to go. Now, I'm not going to be flying this in this video, but I will be flying it in a future video because in this build, we are testing this, the FetTech G4 flight controller, which is one of their new ones, and we're going to be testing their new alpha firmware. Now, obviously, we've got the frame and the motors from Flyfish RC. I've gone with that FetTech flight controller. We're using the Hobbywing ESC that I reviewed on the channel a few weeks ago, and we've gone with an Avatar HD VTX in the back. This frame will take 03, it'll take HD0 or Avatar as you've seen, no problems at all. And then I've obviously got my Express LRS receiver there. I just need to tidy things up a little bit. The last thing I just wanted to quickly show you was the power cable. Now, I actually ended up having the ESC reversed and the cable coming over the top of the flight controller, and then that soldered side on to the XT60. It is tight, but it does clear the VTX at the back. There's going to be no shorts, but this is something to watch if you were using something like the 03, because the Avatar VTX is much shorter. Now, overall, I think it's a nice frame. As I said, we're not going to fly it here today, but if you are interested in seeing that first flight with this, do make sure you are subscribed. When that video publishes, it will be the video after this one. I will put a link to it in the comment section of this video as well. Okay, so to share with you my thoughts on the Volador frame and the flash motors. Overall, I think it's a very nice setup. With regards to the frame, it isn't perfect. There are some things I think could be better. The quality of the screws could be better, especially on the small ones. And whilst that position of the XT60 is nice, that is going to be difficult to use with the 03 system, for instance. Not saying impossible, but it isn't going to be easy. You don't, though, have to use that. About the only other complaint I can really make on this frame is the instructions. They're not the easiest to follow. It did take a bit of back and forth for me to get everything right, but once you get a feel for where everything goes, it does go together without too many problems at all. What I do like about this frame is its size. It is quite compact. We have seen a lot of these 03 frames extending and getting longer and longer. I do like shorter, more compact frames. It reminds me actually of the original Speedy Bee frame, which was a lot shorter than the more recent one. We've seen a lot more frames turning out more like the Diatone Roma rather than that shorter frame. Personally, though, I like quite a squashed frame, but there's still plenty of space in here for an 03 air unit, Avatar HD or HD0, and you've got the wide camera spacing at the front, the CNC front end, which is going to offer protection as well. As for the motors, really all I can say is they feel high quality. I have flown it at this point, no complaints with the motors themselves. Can't talk about longevity, but they certainly do feel like they're up there with some of the other motors on the market. I do like the color scheme, and overall they seem fairly decent. No complaints there at all. Now, if you're interested in getting any of these parts, there will be a link to the Flyfish website in the description of this video. I do want to say a thank you to Flyfish RC for sending these over, and if you're interested in getting one, please do check it out. Finally, I just want to say, as I've said, we're going to be doing the flight of this in a future video. It won't be long. I have actually done some of that already. We're still doing some tuning at the moment on that FC, but I'll be releasing that in the next couple of weeks. So if you want to see that, please do make sure you are subscribed. That way you'll get a notification when it releases. Finally, I just want to say, if you'd like to support the channel to allow us to keep making content like this, please do consider checking out the link to my Patreon. For me, I want to say a massive thank you to all of my patrons. I would not be able to keep making content on this channel without your support. And if you'd like to support us to allow us to keep buying many of the products we talk about, whilst I did get this for free, there are other products we don't. And as a result of that, if you'd like to support us to allow us to keep buying things like the DJI FPV system, please do consider checking it out. We have tiers as low as $2 now, so if you'd like to support us, the link is in the description. Anyway, that's it from me. Any comments, any questions, please do put them below and I will try and answer them. Stay safe and I'll speak to you soon.